It's time for Wave 3 Listens Live on Kentuckiana's first live local TV talk show, all hosted by John Ramsey. This is Wave 3 Listens Live.
And thank you again for joining us on Wave 3 Listens Live. Let me straighten myself out here. There we go. Okay, got it together. Only in Kentucky can you find a show like this today. We've got a little politics, some bourbon, some music, some religion, all on one show. A bourbon mixer. We're going to talk about that coming up here. Also, we have a local dad who has a really cool invention. If you've ever been to a ball game or perhaps the PJ and you say, wow, I'm really hot. How do I cool down? I want to show you this. This is really cool. Youth in Action. This is the 40th anniversary, folks, of the resignation of our 37th President, Richard Nixon. So there's a book out. Very interesting stuff if you have a political bend to you. Dr. Eli Karam is here. If you have an issue with a family member, perhaps your spouse, don't worry. We all do. I know. Dr. Eli Karam will straighten them out. And with me now is Matt Schwegman. Matt is with the Louisville Palace and the Mercury Ballroom. He is the senior talent buyer, which to me says you're responsible for all the acts that come in here, right?
That's exactly right. I book all the acts that come to the Palace Theater as well as our new venue, the Mercury Ballroom.
I'm impressed with you even before I met you because I looked at some of the acts that you have booked. Wow. You've got some big names coming in town, some folks I never thought would see Louisville, and thank goodness you're bringing them in either to the Palace or the Mercury Ballroom. But before we get to those, Matt, talk to me a little bit about the relationship with the Louisville Palace and the Mercury Ballroom and how they complement each other.
Well, the Louisville Palace is obviously the historic, iconic theater here in Louisville. It's been around for so many years, and it's possibly one of the most gorgeous theaters in the country, which I'm hoping everybody knows and has been there. And a lot of people have some great stories about seeing some movies there, seeing some shows there. The Mercury Ballroom is located just a few doors north. House of Blues Entertainment, Live Nation, we came in and got this building and created just an amazing, smaller, 900 capacity, general admission, standing room only, rock and roll club venue. It's just really plays off well to what the calendar at the Palace is. We were able to experiment and do a lot of really cool live music there and special events as well. So it's the little sister to the Palace, and we're really excited to be on that area of 4th Street in the theater district. So it's really cool down there.
I think they complement each other so well because the Louisville Palace, as you mentioned, you know, I talk a lot about summer bucket lists and things to do, but the Palace 24/7, I mean 12 months a year, you've got to get out to the Palace because it's unlike any experience. The venue is just so beautiful. And then, of course, the music, the acoustics are great. Now let's talk about the Mercury Ballroom. Up on the screen now, you have booked some acts that normally may skip over Louisville. And I'm a big fan. Stephen Marley, of course, the son of Bob Marley, that reggae sound, love that. That's up on the screen, as well as G Love and Special Sauce. We talked about how much I love that. These are bands that usually would skip over us, correct?
You know, there's probably played, I know Stephen Marley, it's his first time in the market. G Love has probably played here, but it's maybe been years ago, so it's great to have him back. And the fact of the matter is he's got Kev Moe, an iconic blues guitarist, touring with him. So it's going to be like a 3.5-hour show of just some amazing, just blues, funk, rock and roll. It's going to be great, and that's August 22 at the Mercury.
You described it kind of as a rock and roll, you know, more intimate venue. What kind of reviews are you getting for the Mercury Ballroom? I remember when you built it, I took a look around, and admittedly, I got to get back in there. What do folks say when they come out of the Mercury Ballroom?
We have to pick their jaws up off the floor.
Cool.
And the sound and lights in that room are by far probably one of the best for a venue its size. That's the first thing is that people notice is that the sound and light package that the company that we put in there is really amazing. So you're going to leave going, I was just at a concert. That was amazing. And that's kind of the vibe that we like people leaving with. And we've got a great staff, and there's great sight lines, and you know, the sound and lights in there, I can't even push it hard enough. It's really, really something special.
Well, let's talk about the Big Daddy now, the Louisville Palace. Now, you booked those acts as well. And I'm looking at the lineup there. I'm a big fan of the Avid Brothers. I like going a little old school with Gladys Knight. You know, you got the iconic Bill Cosby, David Gray, Foster the People. We're going to pump up the kicks, all that good stuff. Okay, so right there on the screen are all of those dates. First of all, David Gray, October 9th. Tickets on sale?
Tickets on sale tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow,
yeah.
Good. Jumpstart David Gray.
We are, yes. Tickets on sale tomorrow.
He's got quite a following, so that'll sell out very quickly.
Yes.
Okay, Bill Cosby is back. Nothing like comedy at a venue like the Louisville Palace on October 12th. That had to be a hard get because apparently he's starting a new sitcom. He's busy.
Yeah, he's busy, but it was something that I think he's doing some theater shows, and we were able to get lucky enough to get one of them. So he's going to be there on a Sunday night in October. We're really excited about that. And I don't know if you've ever seen comedy at the Palace. It's pretty special and pretty cool to see a comedy act there. We've got some more comedy acts coming up, so it's not just Bill. So we're excited about Bill and some of the other comedy acts that we've got hitting the Palace stage.
Actually,
here.
I have seen comedy there, and you're right. It's great.
It's pretty neat.
It really has that intimate feel to it.
It does. It
which
most
I
definitely
love.
does.
Avid Brothers. Okay, I'm going to bother you already. I want to purchase tickets, and you just set me aside some good ones, please.
Sounds
Avid
good.
Brothers coming to town. A lot of folks now. I see September 16th through the 18th. They have a couple of shows at the Palace.
So that's actually October.
I'm sorry.
16, 17, 8. They're doing a 3-night stand that was set up as a co-promoted show with one of our partners a promoter out of Nashville. They've helped parlay that in and working with myself and the general manager into a really special 3-night stand that doesn't happen very often. So we're really excited about 3 nights of the Avid Brothers.
I went to the Lollapalooza in Chicago about 3 years ago, and Foster the People were just hitting their stride. And I tell you what, they were the highlight of that show. I mean, they had Eminem and Lady Gaga and all this stuff. But I tell you, Foster the People, they own the stage. That's a nice little choice there. And they come October 20th, right?
That is correct. That's another good band, yeah.
Wow, you've got good taste.
I have my moments. I have my moments.
You're all over the board. Okay, now let's talk about something that I think is really cool. This movie series that you have at the Palace.
Yes.
You know, we brag about the venue, and if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, tell us about the movie series.
So the movie series is the baby of the Palace general manager, David Bartlett. In the summertime, some of the concerts slow down a little bit. There's not as many inside touring bands, you know, people are outside. So we want to come up with some content so people maybe can get out of the heat. What's been happening for a few years is a classic movie series at the Palace. And this year's theme is monster movies.
Look at these monster movies, man.
So, for example, this Friday and Saturday, the 1931 classic Frankenstein is going to be showing Friday night at 7:30, and then a matinee on Saturday at 2 p.m. And then The Mummy is actually going to be showing this weekend as
They're
well.
up on the screen there. Check that out, Matt.
There they
now,
are.
Phantom of the Opera, I can't pick a better venue in the country than the Louisville Palace for the Phantom of the Opera. It has that whole look. You know, that scares me. You want to give folks nightmares? Is that what you're doing, Matt? What's the deal?
I guess. We really like to freak people out. The good thing is $5 to get in. We've got, you know, Coke and popcorn, you know, a couple of bucks. So it's a good night to get out, see some classic movies, enjoy the theater, and not get hit on your pocketbook. So it's a really, really fun event, and you know, I think some of these movies are actually only about 75 minutes long, so you're not going to be hitting a 3.5-hour, you know, Hollywood blockbuster movie anymore. You kind of go, you have a nice dinner, enjoy the theater district on 4th Street, and
right, the entire experience.
You can really have the entire experience.
I like the way you put that, Matt. You're right. I have to tell you, though, for kids who are used to seeing these slasher cut-up movies, you really need to see some history as far as real horror movies, because it was more theater of the mind, it was more left to your imagination, and you know, that dark, that whole cool. Anyway, very, very cool. All right, man.
Yeah, we're excited about that.
I'm going to let you go, but before we do, I love guests who bring presents.
Yes.
Tell them what you've got to give away real quick.
We're going to give away a pair of tickets to see Bill Cosby on October 12th. However we decide to give that,
we're going to do it right now.
Do it right now?
My man.
All right, let's do it.
Gotta love you some Matt. All right, caller number 3, 888-800-923. There's the number up on the screen. Tickets to see Bill Cosby and the Jello pudding pop.
There you
go. Right now, give us a call and we win. Matt, come back and see me. Avid Brothers, you gonna hook me up?
We're gonna see what we can do.
All right, love this guy. Coming up, if you have any family issues, spouse, maybe kids, siblings, whatever the case may be, give us a call. Free advice from the very best licensed marriage and family therapist. Dr. Eli Karam is next.
Do you love cycling? Then join us for a journey across the Kentucky countryside. The 29th annual Bike Trek to Shakertown is on September 13th through the 15th. It's a 3-day mini vacation on wheels that allows riders an overnight stay at Shaker Village. All levels of cyclists are welcome and eligible to win prizes as they raise pledges to battle lung disease. For more information, call the American Lung Association at 1-800-LUNG-USA or visit biketrektoshakertown.org.
Sophomore or a junior?
He'll be a sophomore.
Okay, well, I'll ask you about
Live Friday, September 5th, the stars will align. Join music sensations, film and television stars in a momentous and inspiring stand against cancer. Now is the time when we all come together. Cancer doesn't stand a chance. Tune in September 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Stand up to cancer.
Welcome back to Wave 3 Listens, one of my favorite segments because I get free advice and I'm able to pick the brain of Dr. Eli Karam. If you have a family issue with your spouse, siblings, maybe you have a blended family, 571-5263, KAMFT.org. That's the Kentucky Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, KAMFT.org. And there's a lot of good information on that site, right, Doctor?
Yeah, you're going to get everything that we share with you for the last year and a half on the show, and you're going to get lots of good resources, including where you can find a licensed marriage and family therapist right here in Wave Country. I'll tell you more about that in a second. But you know what, John? It's good to see you again. It's the last couple days of summer vacation, and that makes kids and parents are freaking out, but for different reasons. So we got some tips for you today on how to get ready for that, kind of inspired by one of your emails. And again, you can always send us an email to the website. And that kind of fueled what we'll talk about today in routines. You want to read it?
In fact, I will. I will read this email that will set you up. It's an appropriate topic. Here we go. Dear Dr. Eli, I know that MFTs, marriage and family therapists, work with parents and kids around school routines. Do you have any tips for me as we prepare to start the school year next week? Gloria. Perfect timing, Gloria. All right, Dr. Karam, help me out here.
Yeah. Well, marriage and family therapists, you're right, Gloria. They do work around kind of all family issues, including school issues. And while some MFTs are located in schools, most are going to be there to help negotiate kind of routines. And when we talk about routines, we got about 4 different types of routines that you need to get into now in the last remaining days of summer as the school year approaches. And this always depends on the age of your child, but let's give some general tips. First, we have the morning routine. And the morning routine is all about waking up. And historically, children, especially teenagers, think they need actually less time than they actually really do in the morning to get going. So they have it timed down to the second till they think they can get to the bus stop or to the car. So a common conflict is, how should I wake up? When should I wake up? So if you're one of those parents that likes to be the assist in the wake up versus the alarm, you want to negotiate when's that going to be. Some people like to hit the snooze. They have it timed out. They can hit it 3-4 times. And again, it could really start the morning off in a nasty way if you're trying to wake your child up and they're not getting up, or your expectation is that they eat a meal and they're rushing through, and especially if you have to get to work, if there's a drop-off or a carpool. So you want to negotiate when that time is, and when in doubt, leave more time than you think. Also in the morning, if you can get the game plan going of what's going to happen kind of after school, it also paves the way. And a lot of times, if you do drive your child to school, that's where a lot of cool conversations can happen. Those are those moments. They're kind of contained, if you will, John. They can't get away. Sometimes that is when you get a sense of your kid's world or your teen's world. All right, so then we have the after school or the homework routine, which is a big stressor for a lot of parents and a lot of students, no matter whether you're middle school, high school. It's probably the least favorite part of their day. So the homework routine is important in the sense that, depending on the age of your child, you don't want to micromanage, but you do want to set some structure in the idea of the type of dialogue to have with your co-parent or with your child is, where is the homework going to be done? What types of breaks should you take? Lots of kids like to come home and take a 15 or 20-minute break, change clothes, get a little TV in, a little phone time. But a little break can turn into a long break or a nap, or, so you want to be really clear of where you do the homework, when you do it, and how many kind of breaks you want to take. And then we have kind of like a technology routine as well, as this is something that can really upset the whole family. And if you're a parent, you kind of want to practice what you preach here. So when I mean technology, I mean laptops, cell phones, social media, obviously video games. So you want to negotiate when, how much. Some parents say, go cold turkey during the school week. No technology at all. For a lot of people, that's unrealistic, though. So you want to find a way, again, to manage it. And as a general golden rule, don't make any rule that you can't enforce, or put any consequence you can't enforce 100% of the time. So you want to have a sense of how to regulate that technology. One helpful tip the marriage and family therapists get a lot, that the whole family practice what they preach is during dinner time, or certainly by a cutoff time in the evening, 9 or 10 o'clock, everybody puts their technology up. They got a charging station in the living room, they have something like that, everybody puts it away. So you're modeling for your kids. You don't want to be on your phone texting during dinner if you're expecting your teen not to do that. And then the evening routine, which is bedtime, which is another bone of contention for a lot of kids. Depending on your age, what time, should the lights be off, should you just be in your room quiet, what do you need to get done? Many families will help their child go through to get a jump start on the morning routine at night, meaning laying the clothes out, packing the bag, getting everything ready to save time in the morning. And there's some other rituals, hygiene, things like that you go in the night. So the general rule is, especially the older child, if you have a junior high or high school, you want to give them as much autonomy as you can within limits, but you need to know what's going on. I always tell, lots of teenagers and their parents come to family therapy, but for different reason. The motivation for the teenager is for the parent, to get the parent to leave them alone. The motivation for the parent is to know what's going on with their teen in their world, and both people can get what they want if they check in, rather than the parent have to pulling information out of the child. If the teen initiates that dialogue, here, this is what I got going on, check this out, this is what's coming up later in the week. So it's not micromanaging, but it's the teen initiating an update, which really goes a long way to assure the parents. And you got a teenager at home.
Yes, I had a question for you.
Yeah, what have you learned about
I learned a lot right
works?
there.
Yeah.
I was really listening to you. Yes, I learned a lot. Here's a question, a little bit more urgent for you. I need to acclimate him towards school.
Yeah.
He is so far off base. Like, they have school projects, books
Right.
they're supposed to read.
Yeah.
That, of course, he is procrastinating. And finally, I think I've got him in at least reading a chapter or two a night. Is that something that happens cold turkey, or can you break them into the school mode? How do you do that?
Yeah,
How
we
do you
got a
suggest?
few days left, so you want to start mocking up the routine that we talked about. You don't want them staying up till midnight, 1, 2 a.m. a couple nights before. You want to get them in that, get them ready. If they got summer reading, as most people do, you want them to have a plan and knock that out. That's why they usually give that summer reading. I think it's a worst kept secret. Most people do their summer reading. We got some teenagers in the audience here, I should ask them. Most people do their summer reading probably in the days, if not the day before school starts. So you can get him going in that, and you can just kind of check in with him without micromanaging him on what he's doing. And if that's the expectation, and a lot of other things too. Where's your son do his homework usually?
At the kitchen table.
That's good.
Yeah.
Kitchen table is good. Public spot, open area, can't fall asleep, can get monitored. Sometimes studying in the bedroom is not a good thing. Fall asleep, get caught up in technology, and the idea of multitasking. Lots of people tell you, I can read with the music on, or I can text and do homework. It's easier said than done, probably. So the end result, you should always have measurable outcomes. If your son or daughter is producing academically and they have a method that might not work for you, but it's getting results, then you should be open to different things. If they're not getting results, however, that's when you need to put more structure and more checkpoints in.
I love that. Okay, now, is this a topic that is often approached with you? School issues,
Yeah.
social media, being on the phone too much,
Yeah.
texting, because that is you talk about bone of contention.
Right.
Boy, that'll do it real quickly. If you're on that phone too much, you're texting too much.
Right. Yeah, not just with me, with marriage and family therapists in general, especially with teenagers. Parents kind of lose control, don't know how to rein it back in, and sometimes a teen isn't going to listen to their parent. A marriage and family therapist is going to get that buy-in. Again, get everybody on the same page, working together, and you can find a marriage and family therapist at www.therapistlocator.net. That's going to have the listing of all the marriage and family therapists in the area. John, we talk about it all the time. Click on that rectangular box, put in your information, and it'll pop up all the about 400 licensed marriage and family therapists in Kentucky, many of those centrally located in Wave Country. And thank you for that email. We base the segments based on your feedback, and we will be back, not next week, I'll be in Washington, but the week after that, and we'll be definitely into the school year by then.
All right, Dr. Eli Karam, lots of good information. All right, coming up, it is the 40th anniversary of the resignation of Richard Nixon. If you're a historian or if you just have a political bend, this is an interesting interview coming up with Roger Stone, the author, next on Wave 3 Listens. Check 1, 2. Can you hear me now, sir? Mr. Stone?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. Thank you. Welcome to Louisville via satellite. Can you guys put out some sound here so these folks can hear the interview if they want? Oh, that's okay. Okay, that's okay. Good. All right. Roger, thanks for coming on and talking to us. Fascinating book.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
This will be interesting. This will be fun. I'm looking forward to this. Welcome back. As I mentioned before, it is the 40th anniversary of the resignation of President Richard Nixon. I have on the phone now, there's lots of books out. Let me show you this book right here. Lots of books out about President Nixon, of course, and I don't want to say celebrating this anniversary, but actually historically recalling this anniversary. Nixon's Secrets, The Rise, Fall, and Untold Truth About the President, Watergate, and the Pardon. With us now is Roger Stone, a best-selling author. Mr. Stone, first of all, you are a self-professed friend of President Nixon. Do you think this book is in any way biased?
Well, actually, I think some of my friends will be surprised. I think my book is very balanced. In other words, I try to put forward a warts and all kind of outline of Nixon's entire career. There's critical things in here about Nixon. There's positive things. I think that's how my book is different than all the others out on the 40th anniversary, meaning I try to seek a balance. I show you the good and the bad, the great and the flawed, the accomplishments and the mistakes. I think it's time to judge Richard Nixon on the totality of his record, not just on Watergate alone.
I would agree with that. It does seem to me, though, reoccurring theme in every book about President Nixon. Seems to me he was somewhat of a bully. He liked his power. He was the most powerful man in the world, and he seemed to like to use that sword a little bit. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, he had a hard time getting there. I mean, people say, well, Nixon was a paranoid. You know what? If you had the presidency stolen from you, as he did in 1960, by a millionaire gangster and his playboy son, you'd be paranoid too. I make a very comprehensive case in the book that Nixon actually won the 1960 election. It was stolen from him by the Daily Machine in Chicago, with little help from the mob, and more precisely by Lyndon Johnson, who perpetrated voter fraud in Texas. So Nixon came from far behind in a series of campaign mistakes to win that election, and it was denied to him. I think that made him a very different man by 1968, and I think it explains a lot of his paranoia. He certainly understood power, but I would argue that he used it for positive purposes. He used it to open the door to China, to get an arms control agreement with the Soviets, to save the state of Israel in the Yom Kippur War, over the objections of Henry Kissinger, by the way, to end the draft, to bring our troops home from Vietnam, to set up the Environmental Protection Agency, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the 18-year-old vote. I mean, as president, he got a lot of very important things done.
I'm glad that you mentioned some of those positive historical notes, because it's true and it is history, and I agree with you. I think President Nixon did a lot of positive things. Of course, first and foremost, the relationship with China. I'm also curious a little bit about his fascination with technology. Seems to me that he, phone tapping and anything that gave him a little bit of an advantage, he was fascinated with that. Nowadays, that wouldn't seem so unusual. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, the problem was it was done to him. I prove in the book that John and Robert Kennedy, really Robert Kennedy, wiretapped Richard Nixon's hotel room on the eve of the Nixon-Kennedy debate, the Sheraton Ward Park Hotel in Washington, D.C. They wiretapped his hotel suite. They also were eavesdropping on the Republican National Committee. They broke into his psychiatrist's office to steal his medical records. They broke into his accountant's office to steal his financial records. The Kennedys played hardball. That's the way the game was played in the 1950s and early 1960s. So he was a victim of what he called the most ruthless political operators, and he vowed never to be at a disadvantage again. He played the game by the rules that were the norm at the time, and now we look back at that in disgust, but that is the reality.
He also wanted the White House records of the Bay of Pigs. to be released. Was that more something of a revenge type tactic? What was the reasoning behind that, Mr. Stone?
Well, the White House Chief of Staff, Bob Haldeman, wrote in his book that when Nixon referred to the Bay of Pigs, he was talking more broadly about the Kennedy assassination and its relationship to the Bay of Pigs and our long struggle with Castro. I think the reason that Nixon wanted those records was to hold them over the heads of the CIA for leverage. I also make the case in my book that the CIA infiltrated the Watergate burglar team and they sabotaged the break-in. Why? They were opposed to détente. They were opposed to the opening with the Chinese. They were opposed to bringing home our troops and ending the Vietnam War. They were opposed to the arms control agreements with the Soviets. We know that the Pentagon and the Joint Chiefs were spying on Nixon. We learned that early in his term, where they were stealing documents and they were going right to the head of the Joint Chiefs. So I think there's a lot of political intrigue there. And I think Nixon understood many deep secrets about what really happened in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. In the White House tapes, he specifically says the Warren Commission is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on the American people.
Interesting. With the 40th anniversary this week, I think one point of discussion will be President Ford's pardon of President Nixon. Your thoughts on that, why, and the repercussions from that pardon?
Well, first of all, I think Vice President Spiro Agnew was moved out of the presidential line of succession. I think they set him up. He told me that personally. He also writes it in his own book. They got him out of the way. General Alexander Haig told him, resign or else. Gerald Ford was a man on whom Nixon had leverage. Gerald Ford, as a member of the Warren Commission, was the one who actually altered the autopsy records for John Kennedy, changing the description of the wound in Kennedy's upper back to his lower neck in order to accommodate the government's single shooter, single bullet theory. We know that for an absolute fact because the autopsy records were declassified by the federal government in 1996. The New York Times and both the Associated Press reported it. When they asked Gerald Ford why he made those changes in the autopsy, he said that the country needed clarity. Now, Nixon knew that in real time. And essentially, he was threatening Ford and the CIA that if he went to trial, everybody was going down with him, and he would expose Ford. So I believe he held that over Ford's head, and it cost Ford re-election. It was a wrenching decision that I think probably contributed to Ford's defeat by Jimmy Carter in 1976.
Unfortunately, I know you have other interviews. This has been fascinating. Quickly, though, if you could just say a couple of words about the legacy of President Nixon and his regime, what would you say?
Mixed, but most importantly, he was a peacemaker. He left a safer and more secure world. He completely reordered and reset our relationship with the Chinese and the Soviets, very skillfully playing them off